Let's go to Insert Ribbon tab. So right here, as we were working with analyzed data, at least we heard a little about pivot table as a powerful tool that Excel uses to summarize, arrange, and make meaning out of your data. Okay, this data set is a very small one, right? When we enter data analytics proper, we'll look for data that runs into hundreds and thousands of records. Remember, your row is called records and your columns are called fields in data analytics. So right now, when we talk about insert, insert means bring in, put something, right? Bring in something. So right now, the very first thing we can insert is the pivot table. Okay? We're just going to run through it, but we'll use it more when we start data analytics proper. So if I click this button right now, this dialog box pops up and my data set is automatically selected, right? So this dialog box now is asking me to select a table or range, right? So if I don't want to use the whole of this table, I can now come and select and stop where I want to stop, right? But right now, the table or the data set here is very small one, and I want to use all of them. So I don't need to select or click and drag to select anything here. So I will just click OK. And immediately I click OK, am I going to drop it in a new worksheet? Or am I going to drop this pivot table in this very worksheet, this existing worksheet? The decision is yours, but the default is always the case, right? So I always like to put my pivot table in a new worksheet, so it won't have anything to do with this very one. So where it is now, it will create a new worksheet for me when I click OK. When we will talk about data models, I will tell you what this thing will do. So I click OK, and it brings me to a new sheet, right? This is my pivot table. You will always see this guy here, all right? This little design on a pivot table like this. Now, as I told you, a pivot table is used to summarize and organize your data, right? It is also used for visualization when you use pivot charts. And as you can see, this context ribbon tab is out. You can see this pivot table analysis, all these button commands. We will talk about them in our data analytics, but let's just run through and understand Excel first. So you have these two. This is design, and this is pivot table analyze. Now, what can we use this pivot table to do? Let's see. From this table, if I want to check the countries and their revenues, if I want a summary of different countries in this table and their revenues, like the US, the UK, Mexico, and so on, what I will do is to drag the country into my rows. Immediately I drag the country into my rows, you can see that design is off right now, and you see the names of all the countries, right? So it is either you drag it or you select it. But if you select it, it may put it somewhere else. So that's why I always prefer to drag it into where I want it to be. So now I have dragged the country. Remember, pivot table is used to summarize your data for you to gain insight. The next thing I will drag in to values. Remember, I want to know the revenue of these countries. So revenues are always in values, right? So I will come here and drag my revenue right here. Now you see what is happening. From this table, remember that we have Australia, right? This is Australia. You have another Australia, and so on. You have USA here, you have USA here, you have USA here, and so on, right? So what this table does is to look for all the data in Australia and then sum them up. Do you understand? It sums up all the data you have here. So it's the same thing as you may be saying, okay, I want to sum up all the revenue gotten from Australia. So I can just type my equal to, I check where is Australia. That is if I want to do it manually. This is Australia. I will click this plus another Australia. We check down this one, right? Is there any other one? Not sure there is any other one. So I can press enter now. 29,440. Let's go to the pivot table. Can you see that? So that's exactly what it does to all other countries that are here. It takes the aggregate of the revenue of those countries for us right here. If I want to get the unit prices of all those countries, I can just remember unit prices are also figures. So I can bring it in right here in my values and you see the unit prices. If I need a discount, discounts are also values. I can bring it in here to see the discounts that we have here. This is what data analysts do, right? To get insight into your data set. There are a lot of things to be done right here, okay? We will come back to this place. So this is the summary. I can summarize my data like this. I can also do it by name, or I can do it by name. So let me copy this one. The faster way is to copy this place and then paste in another place right now. This table are now 2. So I can drag this out. Okay, let me bring in the names. Can you see what happened? It brings in the table with the names the way they are. Do you understand? If I want to remove the names and bring in the gender, now you can see the summary of all the female, the sum of the revenue brought in by the female, and the sum of the revenue brought in by the male, the sum of the unit price given to the female and that's given to the male, the sum of the discount given to female and sum of the discount given to male. Do you understand? So if I bring in, say, my country here, you will see what happens. Now, you can see that it summarizes the number of female by countries and the number of males by countries here for me. So this alone can give me the insight of the gender and the revenue they brought in, the unit price they were giving, and the discounts they were giving. So the total discounts for the male, right, for the female is what you have here. And The total, the total revenue brought in by the female is what you have here. The total unit price given was this. The total discount was this. For the male, the total is this for revenue. So, and the total is this for unit price. Then this is the total of discount given to the male in that data set. And then the grand total, it gives us this plus this to give us this grand total, right? So you can manipulate your data here and, you know, get insight into it. Let's say, for example, maybe hospital data. There are some NGOs that are working with hospitals to check, you know, to gather data of malaria and typhoid and all that. So if that kind of large data is brought in here, pivot table is a handy tool that will summarize. Even if the data gets to thousands, pivot table is able to summarize that data and give you an insight into what is happening, all right, in that data set. I hope you've understood what we've done so far. We are just touching what data analysts do to get insights from data, to use it to make informed decision, to use it to predict what will happen in the future, right? Is there any question here? All right. So still in insert menu, pivot table. This is the one we use. This pivot table from table range, remember, is the same. This one, I can decide to take up to this point and work on that. Maybe if you are told to work on the first 20 data sets, that is what that place does for you. Remember, it still brings up this same table. You can also insert the pivot table right here in this very worksheet. If I click OK now, you can see that design right here, and you see the pivot table right beside this table here, or this data set right here. You can do those things that I did again right in this place. So now let's undo that and go back. Now, pivot table from external data source. What you have there is just what it says. Excel accepts data from different data sources. It could be from CSVs, that is comma separated values, right? So there are times you can use like a note to type your data. Maybe comma I'm just trying to show you how CSV will look like. Can you see this? So this data now is not in a tabular form. They are being separated by commas. So Excel has the ability, if you have this kind of file, right? If you have this kind of file and you want to bring it in as an external data source to Excel, you can also do it. This data now has 1, 2, 3, 4 columns and 2 rows. So Excel has the ability to bring this data as an external data. Excel has the ability, as we continue, you will see that Excel has the ability to bring in data even from your PDF file, right? So this is kind of a comma separated variable, as I said. If you give it a file name, you can import it into Excel as they are. So Excel will know how to separate these and then put them in different cells. I hope that is understood. So that is exactly what this guy does from external source. It could be comma separated variable. It could be from any other data. It could be from Google Sheets. It could be from the internet or whatever. So by the time we start bringing in data, you will see exactly what it does. We have not done anything on data models. That's why you see this very one not highlighted. So when we model our data, you will see that these from data models or data model will come in. So it says create a pivot table from data model in this workbook. This one says create a pivot table using data from an external source. An external source are files that are not, they could be Excel worksheets also, another file at all. Could be comma separated variables, could be from Google Sheets, and so on. So we can bring in data through those external sources. I hope that is understood. This is very important for data analysts because some of the data that they will be given may not be in Excel, right? So you learn how to use this pivot table to bring in data from external source. Now, recommended pivot tables. What this one does, is that it recommends for you, just as the name implies. So if I click this one now, you see what it does. It brings in this dialog box and then recommends things for you. Can you see what is happening here? This is another way. It's also a very intelligent command button that recommends, is this what you really want to do? We can recommend this for you, right? Sum of revenue of, sum of discount, sum of unit price by country. That's what it inserts. It's inserted here. If I click this one, the sum of this revenue count, of order number by country. Just as you click them, you see the title of what it does. So if peradventure one of these is what you were looking for to carry out in this data set to analyze your data, it's simple. You just click OK and it will bring it in. Do you understand that? Look at all the, it even takes the average of revenue by gender. This is the summary of the average here. If I just click OK here, it takes me to a new sheet 6, and gives me that summary. Remember, it still uses pivot table, right? But it does this one automatically by itself. So this is the same place we were before, but it was created by this guy here, recommended pivot tables. Is there any question? So what this one does is just to recommend for you and give you summary of your tables. Is this what you really want? If it is what you want, you can just click OK and insert it. That's all. Is that understood?
Yes, sir.
If you don't understand, you can call my attention. Let me explain it again. All right. So let's continue. Back to our sheet, the original data set. Now, you can work on a data set like this in Excel and still get what you want to get, right? But when you are working with a very large data set, it is always recommended that you convert that data set to a table. In fact, I am used to converting any data I want to work with to a table in Microsoft Excel. This is because tables have flexibilities to do many things than the ordinary data set like this. And how do you convert a data set like this to a table? There are 3 ways to do it. You can use your keyboard and press Ctrl T when your cursor is in any of the cells here. I press Ctrl T and it brings out this little guy, this little dialog box. I click OK and immediately it converts this to a table. This is how a table looks like. Remember when we did something like this? Format as table. Let me undo this. So that's one way of converting your data set to a table. Another way is to come to Home ribbon tab and then format as table, and then just pick any of these formats here. It brings out this dialog box again and click. You can click OK. If your table has headers, just like these ones that you have here, let this be checked. But if not, uncheck it. So my table has 8 headers. That's why I will allow it to remain checked. I click OK. You can see that it also turns my data set to a table, right? And immediately it turns this data set to a table. You will see a context ribbon tab here that give me a lot of command buttons to work on this table. Let's say, for example, I need a total row for this table. I can quickly come here and check this total row, and immediately you will see the total here. You can see this total here. It wasn't there before. Do you understand? If I will need some, of course, banded colons, see what it does. Have you seen what banded colons do? Or banded colons option does? That's what it does to the table. Last column. Have you seen what it does? It introduces a shade, green color shading to your data set, right? To demarcate it. So you can even use this one to change any of the colors you want, if you want to, right? You use these table styles. And you can use this one also, right? If you drop down this, you can see different styles that you can make use of. Okay, and it gave this table a name. This is table 2. I can change it. I can change this name to anything. The only thing that it does not allow is space. If I type table, I give space of what's this, revenue, it will complain, right? You can see that it is complaining about it, that the syntax of this name isn't correct. So what do I do? If I have a phrase to call my table, because it is always good for you to give your table a name that is identifiable with that table. So if I want to type table of, I can use my camel case. I start off with capital letter. I start R with capital letter, revenue, and press my enter. That's the name of this table. Okay? Or I can use underscore, table underscore of underscore revenue. Sorry. Of underscore revenue. Still a valid name. It won't quarrel with that one. Right? So there is a reason why we must give this table a name, because somewhere, maybe in this worksheet, we may like to refer back to this table. It can be across worksheets, right? I can be somewhere else to call that table, or to work on the summary of that table that we just gave a name. So it is important for you to give this table, when you convert your data sets to a table, give it a name that you can use to identify that table. It is very, very important, so that you will not confuse yourself at the long run. I hope that is understood. Let's go back to insert. So insert also has to do with forms, but we are not going to do anything with this form here, right? Of course, you know, Microsoft form, where you can create a form for maybe survey or whatever you want to use it for. We can actually create forms using Excel, but you have to be connected to the internet, and your form has to be saved to cloud. So that is the requirement for creating a form. It can be, as I said, a survey or questionnaire to send to people to fill it and you get the data. But we are not going to do that now. The next thing is illustrations. Illustrations ribbon group. We are just done with this tables ribbon group, but we'll come back to it, right, when we start our data analytics proper. I'm just giving you an overview of what this tables ribbon tab does. So the next one is illustrations. Remember, I told you insert means bring in, right? Let me create a new sheet. I can bring in pictures and place it inside this cell, or I can place it over cells, right? Let's see the difference. Let me bring pictures from stock images. You have to be connected to internet to be able to get this. All right, so all these pictures are here. I can check maybe office pictures, modern pictures, dusk, any of them you want, right? Let me bring in this one. I click it and it ticks it. I click insert. Remember, we selected that it should put it inside a cell. So this is what it does. Do you understand? If you click that little icon there, it now brings it over cells. Don't know if you understand what I did. This is actually where we said it should bring in the picture. Press insert, right? That is why it places the picture here. No matter how big that picture is, it will reduce it and place it inside this cell. But you will have this icon placed over cells right here, right? So which is the same thing as this one here. The only difference is that this one will place it over the cells as you bring in the picture. But you can take out any picture that is placed in a cell and make it to be placed over cells. I hope that is understood. Let me undo it and let the picture be in cell. Let's demonstrate how to insert picture over cells. Let's still go to stock images. Let me insert this flower. Insert. Remember, your internet must be available for you to download this and bring it into your documents. I hope you understand what I just did. This is an object. Remember when we talked about object? This is an object here. So once you bring a picture in, also you will see this context menu for picture, where you can do anything you want to do with your picture using this as picture styles. You can change it anyhow you want to change it. Look at it here. All right, anyone you choose can change your pictures like that. Anyway, we are not in a design class. Let's just quickly move from this. We're still in insert menu, right? Remember that all these places are sources where you can bring in your pictures, just as we did with stock. The same thing is applicable to these places. All these are sources for you to bring in your pictures. Now, apart from bringing in pictures, Excel, you can also draw some shapes in Excel. And so we go to shapes. Can quickly draw my rectangle, click my rectangle and draw here. Can press my Ctrl D while this shape is highlighted to duplicate it. Can drop it here. Remember, you can carry your objects, you can carry them around. You can remember what we did the other day. You can carry them around, and it also brings out shapes format. So if I want to add any style to these shapes, I can just come here and pick this up, and it does that. If I don't want to apply the same style to all of them, I click one of them and give it a different style. I can go back there or come here and pick maybe my line and draw there, draw here. Okay, I can even decide to remove this fill and give it a line, right? I'm doing that so that I will be able to do what I want to do. I want to turn this to a box. We're not in a design class, but let's just see a few things that we can do here. And I can duplicate this, Ctrl D, Ctrl plus D, and bring it down here. So it gives me an open box. Did you see that? So that's it. Remember, we are still on insert. So any shape at all in this place, you can make use of it. You can bring it in, right? I can bring it this smiley face. The guy is smiling, but I can make it to frown by clicking this yellow and dragging it upward. This becomes a frown face, right? So that's how it works. I can make it a straight face by making the mouth to be straight, kind of. Okay. So that's that. That's what we can do with that. I can also insert icons. If I am working on PowerPoint designs, this same thing is there. PowerPoint slide design. And you need to use any of these icons. You can insert icons, but make sure that you are connected to the internet. If I want to bring in this ambulance, I can just click it. Remember that you can insert more than one object or icon at a time, right? So just select any one you want to use and click insert. You can see that 4 of them are selected. So I can click insert and the 4 of them will come in here. Sorry, I can just click and drag and separate them. So instead of me to start drawing all these ones one by one, you know, with all this, I can just bring it from my icons and then I can color it and do what I want to do with it. Can change the color to something else, right? Apple can be green, right? Maybe like this one. Ant can be maybe brown. Can go and look for something close to brown, right? Maybe here, and so on and so forth. So that's how you can work with your icons, shapes, and pictures. Those are the three we've done already. We can also insert 3D models here, right? From stock models, stock 3D models. Make sure you are connected to internet, because if you are not, you can just bring in the 3D model from your device. That means your system. But if you are connected to the internet, you can bring in your 3D models here. Depends on what you want to do. I can bring in this shoe. Which shoe with the, is it red or black? Any one of them or two of them. So which of them with the female here like? These are female shoes, right? I can bring the two of them in. So those are 3D rendering of those shoes, right? Bringing them in. All right, our shoes are here. Look at them there. And it brings your 3D model here, the context menu, right? So I can come here and pick this one. Let my shoe be like that. Remember, it was facing me. It can face this way. I can see it this way, and so on. There are 3D models from the back, from the right, and I can also rotate it anyhow I want to rotate it. That's one good thing about 3D. You can rotate it anyhow you want to rotate it. Back to insert menu. You can also insert your SmartArt right here. If you remember that SmartArt I inserted the other day, this is where I inserted it from. So I can just click any of this and then insert it. You type your text, whatever you want to type. Type your text here. You click and type your text. I can click and type my text here, 3. And I type the figure here, 3. Can come here and delete. Just put your cursor here, press delete. It will remove the other ones. And if you want to add, just press enter and type. It will come in as you press enter. So that's how to do this right here. We're talking about insert illustrations. Now we can say insert screenshot. Okay. Look at the screenshot Excel has taken. I can insert this one. You can see intelligently Excel took a screenshot of this. You can bring it in. So that's how to bring in your screenshot. Let me delete that. Is there any question here? Do you understand?
No, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, if I want to bring in a checkbox, remember a checkbox also is an object. All these are objects and shapes. So it's just to click and bring in my checkbox. Look at it. Into this cell. There are times you may need this. Okay. So If I want to bring in multiple of them, you see what I did? I will just highlight the cells that I want the checkbox to be. And then I come here and click my checkbox. It will insert them in all those cells that I selected. So that's about these controls that you have here. You can check any of them. Maybe you want to use it to indicate something in your data. You can make use of it. Now, the next one is recommended chart. Let's go back to our sheet here. Let me just copy. Copy this out. Create a new sheet and paste it as values. Right? I hope you understand what I'm doing. We've already learned this already, at the beginning of this training. So I didn't want that formatting to come with me. So I just pasted it as values. That's why it brought the table out as it was. So still in insert, we have recommended charts. Now, this also suggests to you charts that you can insert that will make sense for your table. So let's say we highlight this and we come here and click this. You can see that it brought in a cluster chart here. It makes a suggestion of a cluster chart. Is it like this? Sum of 289 by UK and Mer. Is it this one? Is it this one? So any one you like, you can make use of. So it automatically plots a chart for you here. Could be this, it could be this, depending on the chart you want to plot. Recommended. So if I click OK now, that chart comes in here. Some of us have already known how to plot charts in Excel, so this might not be new to you. And the moment you plot a chart and bring it into your worksheet, you will see that you have chart design context menu and format context menu for the chart. I can come to style and choose any of these, or any of these, depending on what you want to do. Okay, let's go back to insert. Let me delete this chart. So that is the one Excel recommended for you, and it is always right most of the time. But in case you don't like any of the recommendation or any of the recommended charts, you can create your own chart. Okay, so I can come here for this very one and say, okay, let's create this chart, this very one. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. You can see why Excel recommended those charts here. Right? That these charts don't make sense because of the kind of data set. Before it can make sense, you enlarge it very well before you can see what is happening. These ones are too small, and you can see that the labelings are not making sense. The numbers here are not making sense. Right? So that's why Excel recommended those charts for you. If you want to use 2D column, 3D, any of them, you can make use of them. If you click more column charts, it brings this dialog box out where you can see all the charts, different types of charts, where you can select and use it. You can see this one, pie chart, and so on, bar chart. which is the one we just used. Stock. Any one you click, you can make use of it depending on what you want to do. Different charts are used for different purposes. Okay, so you don't just use any chart. You can use charts for comparison, right? You can also use charts maybe to just look at trends. You can use charts to check your data to see what the highest, the highest revenue, as we did before. So you can use different charts are for different things. Engineers always use like this scatter chart. They use it a lot. So if I click OK now, the scatter chart comes in here. I hope that is understood. This is another chart, kind of chart. All right, I can change it to this. You've seen this already before. Can be changed to any of these. Depends on the one that will make sense for the data that you are interpreting or that you are analyzing. All these other ones are still charts. You can see that. They are all charts. You can insert them using a data set. You can see this histogram. This is box and whisker. You can use them to insert a chart into your worksheet. Remember, before you plot a chart, you have to highlight the data that will generate the chart. This one is a scatter plot. We've seen this before. This is a scatter with smooth lines, and so on. Different types that you can use to visualize your data. All these ones are also there for you. It depends on what you want to do. So I'm just showing you that you can insert any of these charts, right? Depending on what you're doing. Now, 3D maps. 3D maps need geographical data to be able to generate that world map. Okay? Now, pivot chart. Right? Remember I said something about pivot table. That pivot table also has pivot chart. Okay? So if I highlight or select this and click pivot chart, what it will do first is to change this data set to pivot table. Right? So it changes it to pivot table for us, so that we can use all these context menus to do what we want to do. Okay? So we can drag down this Canada. Let me put it here. And the value, put it here, and it will plot. So this is a pivot chart. So I think that is all for charts. We will work more with charts when we start our analytics. That's for today. Thank you very much for attending the class today.